this is all good. The physical network I checked out looks great. These 4 PCs are slow, and I've looked in Kaseya, and Mr. Customer, these are notebook computers on your wireless network, so there's a wireless network problem. I need to turn this over to service, type of thing. But if you can show that to them, they're just, oh, okay. See, telling them one thing and physically showing them makes all the difference, especially when you're dealing with ISPs. A lot of times we have to deal battle like, no, their connection's fine. No, it's not. I ran the diagnostics. Oh, okay. And then magically, a lot of times magically, it'll get fixed, and they're like, well, what'd you do? Well, we didn't do anything. Yeah. I don't care if you did or didn't or whatever. It's fixed. That's the objective. So, all right. So does that make sense? The tools, the form, gathering all the information, the different points. Now I'm gonna throw you a curveball, because all of this is pretty standard for point-to-internet. Our friends at Career Exchange, they're not on point-to-internet after all that, right? They are on a VPN back to us. Actually, they're on a level 3 MPLS back to us. Still means they go through the internet, but conceptually speaking, they come straight over. And their router is actually here in our data center. They actually don't have routers. They have 2 locations. Location 1, location 2, they have Broward, and they have Pembroke Pines. Oh, no, maybe that's the same one. They have so many names for them. One's Broward, one's Miami. You got Kendall, Pembroke Pines, Broward. I mean, I don't know which one's which. But they have the 2 locations. And they're both MPLS. Metro E is a Bright House slash Spectrum term. But a Metro E is actually an MPLS, in other words.
Same exact thing.
Same exact thing. And at the end of the day, they're a VPN, is what they are, a fancy VPN. VPN, MPLS, Metro E. But MPLS is what the rest of the world calls their private connection network. It's their VPN that they build instead of us building one outside of their network. So both of their connections come into here. Their router is actually in our network. So a lot of this work that you would do, that you would still do, is going to give you a little bit of misinformation. But why still do it is because when you go over to the data center guys, they're going to know this is Career Exchange. They're going to know where your information points to the issue. So what I did is to combat this, because you would not know that, and this is what the data center guys are going to do. When you go into the customer profile now, I don't know if they got Career Exchange updated or not, but under the Service tab, and I hate to add more stuff to SIs, I really do, but when you go into the Service tab now, up on the left-hand side here, you can see it's noted right here, Career Exchange Disconnect Data Center via MPLS. But those guys are going to start populating this box with any specialty type connections that customers have. And there's not a lot of them. The bulk of them are point to internet, but there are some, like McDonald Training Center has the same connection that these guys have to us. They're on a private connection. Career Exchange has a private connection. Forge has their own completely private connection, and it's all a closed network connection. So we're going to start documenting that in that infrastructure notes field. Okay, Joe? So we're going to want those guys to know that. So that'll tell you a little bit more about their connection. And that's why when you run some of these tests and you say, well, I'm going to run a trace route, you're not going to see all this. You're going to see boom, boom, boom. And you say, that's weird. You should say, that's weird.
Yeah, I did it because I noticed it only had like 3 hops. And I was like,
okay. What was the mistake you made?
not documented.
And I'm gonna beat you up on that until you do it, because it is so important. It's so important. You don't know how many times I'll get a call or I'll get an email or I'll be looking at something else and I need to go in and see what's going on with this stuff. And I pull up the ticket and there's no information. The original ticket you didn't even mention that you contacted the customer, right? So I'm sitting there at 11 o'clock at night and I'm going, was this customer ever even contacted? Are they up? Is it fixed? What's the status? Can't have that. Got the night crew. We're going to have a Saturday crew. We got remote guys working. You know, there's a lot of people that need this information. You know, not to mention the client. It's great for them to get that, because then you're communicating with Juan. Sue calls me and says, "Hey, what's going on? You know, you guys are slow. You're down." I'm gonna say, "Sue, I'm looking at the ticket right here, and it clearly says that Nick told Juan that he did all this work and troubleshooted it, and it's your local network again with your 100 megabit switches. So we've determined that you have slow local network access before you even get out on the internet, before you even go over the MPLS, before you even get to the server." Done. My conversation's done. I got leverage now. We look golden. You look great. And I got leverage to make them buy new switches. Instead of her calling up or sending me an email and me looking at the ticket and having no answers for her. You know, and I'm using myself as an example, but that would stand for Mike, Joe. You know, eventually customers, the newer customers aren't going to call me. Career Exchange is a legacy customer and a great one, and kind of a pet customer of mine, because they're one of the first ones I brought on board myself. But they're going to be calling Joe. They still, one or two still call Mike, you know, but they'll be calling somebody, and that information needs to be there, right? The other thing about the tickets is, one thing I noticed is you're kind of leaving them in a default state. So you need to make sure all the information is right, but also pay close attention to the email correspondence that's on there, because you may get a ticket from Sue Romanos, so her email address is going to be on there. But Sue says, "Hey, talk to Juan," right? Well, what you're not doing, what nobody is doing, a lot of this stuff is not specific to you. It's specific to you right here, right now. But a lot of these things are what these other guys aren't doing either. So we're trying to tackle this one at a time. But you've got to think, and you've got to be cognizant of the fact that, okay, Sue's email's here. I'm talking to Juan. If I make any updates here, they're going to go to Sue. You see a problem with that, right?
Right.
So, but you want to keep Sue informed, but you want to also keep Juan informed. So what do?
You add her to the email list, right?
Well, you add him because she's already on it. You make sure they're...
Semicolon and then his email address, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. And you know, there's a little arrow. You just drop down and you select it, and it adds it to it. At the end of that email address. So unless it's not in the list for some reason. So here's the email address right here, Scott Dollar. That's who submitted it. But see where it says add and the down arrow? And I can say, you know what? I want Chris to know what I'm doing here. But you know what? I want Mr. Ponticello to know too. See how it built it for me?
Yeah.
I'm done. Now, everything you do over here is sent to these email addresses. When you click send over here, save an email, and have a good reason if you click don't email. Okay? But save an email, it will update all these people with that information. And that's what you want to do. So working a ticket is more than just doing the work. It's documenting. It's making sure the information is going to the right people as far as the customer is concerned. It's making sure the categories and everything are set up correctly on there. SI Live. Where? Oh, here. Okay. Yeah.
Now, when you complete this session, okay, it's checked. That will email the client.
This? Yes.
Okay, so you don't have to do save an email if the email client's checked.
No. If you're working a session here, this is for quick update. Well, if you're working the session and you're doing a lot of work, you do that here. If you're going to report just the quick status updates, like I was saying, you can do that over here. They're both the same. The difference is these don't calculate time. This will calculate time. As soon as you click in here, it starts calculating the time, the ticket time. These are quick hitters. It doesn't calculate any time. Do you understand the difference?
Yeah,
So
that summary report you get calculates it based off of that total divided
right.
by the top, so that's why using the live button is so important.
So when I click on that, you'll notice now the complete session. You see how this started live time, started clicking, ticking? So when I hit complete this session, oh, that's because I didn't put any data. No, what happened? Oh, no.
When you put the schedule and see where it's yellow, I don't know why it does that. It says service schedule.
Where?
Once you put something over the left-hand side.
Oh, here?
The yellow says it's requesting information. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, got to get what's her name to fix that. No, that's not it. It's an invalid use of null. So, oh, you know what? I know what it is. Look, okay, so invalid use of null, if you ever see that in Scorpion, it means that it's looking for information data in a field. It means that I didn't have time to write a trap code to say, hey, dummy, you didn't put a category in here, which is this one. So I've tried to simplify. Yeah, you don't need detail.
Or location.
There we go. It was a category. See that? So, yeah, I tried to simplify a lot of that stuff, Joe, and start taking out the colors because it started looking like a fucking coloring book. So I try to highlight now just the new areas, the things that are new, and the stuff that goes into legacy, I just start fading it into the background more. So, but that should really come up and say, hey, you need to put a category in here. I just don't have time to write a lot of trap codes, you know. So that then recorded right here my live time in this space. And that's important because customers want to know, like the Loyola Group, Dan Cavolo, and all those guys want to know, well, what's our mean time to closing tickets? Well, a lot of times they're open maybe for a day, but we may have only put a few minutes in them because you're waiting for someone to call you back, right? So that's why we can't just say opened and closed and it's an 18-hour span. No. We track each thing that we do so we can say, hey, Dan, this ticket has been open for a day, but we only put a minute into it because we're waiting for this information, which is why it's important to document exactly what you're doing, what you're waiting on. You come in tomorrow and you're still waiting for information from a client. You go into the interaction window here again and you say, hey, Mr. Client, still waiting for this information. Send. Sends them a reminder, documents that you did it. Dan Cavolo calls and says, why isn't this fixed? I say, well, Dan, I'm looking here 3 times. Nick has asked this customer. Now, if you do that 3 times without me seeing you call the customer, that's a problem on our side. Reminder, the next one says, I sent a reminder and I tried to call the customer and I tried to call their boss, type of thing. Then I've got all the information that I need. Okay? And then Dan can call up and say, hey, what are you complaining about? The guy's been trying to get in touch with you, which is exactly a situation that we've had with a lot of the Loyola, group users, right? So, which is another reason those great surveys that you get back are awesome. They're great. They're great until there's a problem, like with Career Exchange. Then it doesn't matter how good the surveys are because